Edgar Cayce, a Kentuckian who became the most documented psychic of the 20th century.
His special gift was hard to accept.
His readings unlocked secrets from the past and predicted our future.
He has certainly predicted political events that came to be.
Adam Weiner investigates why a new generation is rediscovering Kentucky's sleeping prophet.
Although he is long dead, the predictions of the sleeping prophet still linger, haunting the fate of the rest of mankind. Edgar Cayce, the famous American clairvoyant, left behind a shocking prophecy before his passing.
He said that China would become the world economic power, that civilization would move to China.
And strangely, it is now happening before our eyes, instilling fear in many who have become its victim. But if we try hard enough, can we have a chance to evade this looming prediction? Join us as we unravel Edgar Cayce's unbelievable prediction for 2024 and its possible implications for us all. Strange Tales of the Sleeping Prophet. Snoozing at work isn't usually a way to get ahead, but for Edgar Cayce, it resulted in more than 14,000 prophecies about the present, the past, and the future. This included a variety of subjects such as healing, reincarnation, dreams, the afterlife, past lives, nutrition, and future events. But a puzzle lingers. What is behind Edgar Cayce's powers? Is it light or darkness? Cayce, who was a devout Christian and Sunday school teacher, said that his readings came from his subconscious mind exploring the dream realm, where he said all minds were timelessly connected. However, if we are to decide to believe if Edgar Cayce's terrifying prediction for 2024 is true or false, then we must first define his root as a psychic. Famously known as the Sleeping Prophet, Cayce gained fame in the early to mid-1900s because of his uncanny ability to fall asleep into a self-induced hypnotic state and offer medical advice for sick people he hadn't ever met. He could allegedly draw medical conclusions about people's illnesses armed only with their name, location, and hypnotic trance. So vast is the list of people he allegedly healed through his medical advice that he has been called the father of holistic medicine.
Cayce transformed many lives through medical and spiritual healing, and some are still alive to tell their story.
It was an experience that shaped my whole life, and he was right on in everything.
He even made headlines in the New York Times because of his gift of clairvoyance, attributed to the illiterate man who becomes doctor when hypnotized. The truth, however, was that although Edgar Cayce wasn't particularly interested in school, he wasn't illiterate. It was while struggling with his coursework alongside the tutoring of his father that he got his spiritual breakthrough and enhancement. His first encounter with the otherworldly was at age 10 while he was reading his Bible. In the year 1889, young Edgar claimed he was visited by a woman with wings on her back who asked him what he wanted the most. Edgar said he was frightened, but still answered that he wanted to be able to help people, especially children. And after he had replied, the woman promised to answer his prayers and disappeared, but Cayce would hear from her again shortly. From a young age, Cayce exhibited psychic abilities, including clairvoyance and intuitive insights. He claimed to have experienced visions and communication with spirits, which both fascinated and frightened him as a child. These early experiences would later shape his understanding of the unseen realms and his belief in the continuity of consciousness beyond physical death. As a child, Cayce reportedly saw and communed with the ghost of his deceased grandfather. He was confident that it was a ghost because it became transparent if he looked hard enough. He also could see invisible ethereal beings which he termed his friends and called little folks. With his life resembling a haunted house attraction, it's no surprise Cayce's ability to concentrate on his studies was a feat. His second encounter with the winged lady happened when Cayce was 12 years old. It occurred one evening when he was studying spelling with his father and couldn't seem to grasp the words. When his frustrated father left the room for a moment, Cayce said he heard the voice of the winged woman from the creek tell him to fall asleep. He fell asleep on the book, and when he woke up a few minutes later, and to his father's great astonishment, not only could Cayce spell the words he'd been practicing that evening, but he also apparently knew the rest of the lessons too. This was a turning point in Cayce's education as he started to be quite successful in the classroom. This was also the first moment that Cayce determined sleep was going to be an instrumental part of his life. He earned his most famous moniker, the Sleeping Prophet, because of his purported ability to fall asleep atop books, awakening with full retention of the facts and illustrations recorded therein. Later, this skill transformed into the ability to diagnose and recommend treatments for illnesses while in a trance-like sleeping state.
Sleeping trance-like state, Cayce could diagnose and suggest treatment for illnesses and injuries with astonishing accuracy.
Believe it or not, Cayce himself had no formal medical training. Edgar Cayce's childhood experiences and influences were all that played a significant role in shaping his spiritual beliefs, psychic abilities, and holistic approach to health and healing. Cayce was born into a deeply religious family in rural Kentucky, where he was raised with a strong Christian upbringing. His parents instilled in him a reverence for God and a belief in the power of prayer, which would later influence his spiritual teachings and practices. As a child, Cayce developed a keen interest in spirituality and healing, inspired by his family's religious beliefs and his own experiences of psychic phenomena. He was drawn to the teachings of the Bible and other spiritual texts, as well as to alternative healing modalities such as herbal remedies and folk medicine practiced in his community. Despite his limited formal education, Cayce was a voracious reader and self-learner who eagerly absorbed knowledge from books on a wide range of subjects, including science, philosophy, and metaphysics. His curiosity and thirst for knowledge would later inform his holistic approach to health and healing, which integrated insights from various disciplines and traditions. Edgar Cayce's journey into the realm of psychic abilities began with subtle yet profound experiences that unfolded during his formative years, gradually revealing the extraordinary gifts hidden within him. His first notable encounters with psychic abilities occurred in the quiet corners of his family's farm, where he developed an uncanny knack for diagnosing the ailments of their livestock. With little more than a touch and a gaze, Cayce could discern the underlying health issues plaguing the animals, often providing accurate assessments that astounded those around him. These early demonstrations of his intuitive prowess served as a hint of the extraordinary path that lay ahead. As Cayce matured, his psychic abilities continued to evolve, manifesting in a variety of forms that defied conventional explanation. He began to experience vivid dreams and spontaneous visions that seemed to offer glimpses into the past, present, and future. In these altered states of consciousness, Cayce found himself accessing a wellspring of knowledge and insight far beyond the scope of his conscious mind. He described feeling as though he were tapping into a universal source of wisdom, channeling information and guidance from realms unseen. Despite the wonder and intrigue surrounding his psychic experiences, Cayce approached them with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Raised in a devout Christian household, he grappled with reconciling his burgeoning psychic abilities with the teachings of his faith. At times, he struggled with doubts and uncertainties, questioning the source and significance of the information flowing through him. Yet, with each encounter, Cayce felt drawn deeper into the mysteries of the human psyche and the interconnectedness of all life. It was not until later in life, after facing numerous personal and professional challenges, that Cayce fully embraced his psychic gifts and began to share them with the world. Through a series of trance-induced readings conducted in a deep meditative state, Cayce offered insights and guidance on a wide range of topics, from health and healing to spirituality and personal growth.
Edgar spent his first 20 years focusing on health readings for people, but he didn't go and examine the people. Sometimes very strange formulas to get through toward healing.
These readings, which would come to be known as the Edgar Cayce readings, laid the foundation for his legacy as one of the most renowned psychics and spiritual healers of the 20th century, and also led to the birth of the unbelievable prediction that would come to pass in 2024. In hindsight, Cayce's early encounters with psychic abilities served as a prelude to his extraordinary contributions to the fields of metaphysics, holistic healing, and spiritual exploration. They provided him with a glimpse of the boundless potential that lay within him and set him on a path of self-discovery and service to humanity. Edgar Cayce remains a controversial figure, and with good reason. Stories surrounding his early life prove sensational and hard to believe. Yet they provide the foundational elements for this fascinating turn-of-the-century American figure's rise to fame. But what were the notable strange miracles Edgar Cayce performed that brought his mysterious powers to light? Should we believe his so-called prophecies? Edgar's mysterious gifts. During his lifetime, Edgar Cayce carried out thousands of documented readings covering various topics to a wide range of people, including celebrities like Harry Houdini, Thomas Edison, Woodrow Wilson, and Marilyn Monroe. He foretold events, from Atlantis' rediscovery to the outbreak of World War II, down to the very prediction that will define the fate of mankind today. Edgar Cayce's role as a clairvoyant doctor began with self-diagnosis. After getting hit in the spine with a ball during a school game, Cayce acted strangely, and so his parents put him to bed. To their astonishment, he began talking in his sleep, diagnosing his condition and describing how to cure it. After following their sleeping son's instructions, Cayce received healing almost instantly. In later years, news of Cayce's supernatural diagnosis spread far and wide like wildfire. Newspapers billed Cayce as the illiterate who becomes a doctor when hypnotized. They described how Cayce, whom they described as a psychic diagnostician, would take off his coat, collar, and tie before reclining. He would then close his eyes and sigh deeply. Moments later, his eyes would open, filled with a dreamy quality as if in a trance, and he would start reciting diagnoses, cures, and even predictions. Cayce made numerous personal prophecies and health predictions for individuals seeking guidance through his readings. While many individuals reported positive outcomes and improvements in health as a result of Cayce's recommendations, the accuracy of these predictions varied and was often difficult to verify independently. Whether these testimonies amounted to much more than anecdotal evidence remains up for debate. But Cayce's health recommendations from the 1920s and 30s do hold up to today's standards. His tips for leading a long and healthy life included getting a good night's sleep, cooking with olive oil, exercising, and drinking plenty of water. According to his biographer Thomas Sugrue, there are hundreds of people throughout the United States who will testify at the drop of a hat to the accuracy of his diagnoses and the efficacy of his suggestions for treatment. It doesn't even end here. Besides his penchant for sleep-talking medical diagnoses,
many of the natural remedies Cayce prescribed are still used today. And in fact, he was one of the first people to introduce holistic medicine to the Western world.
Cayce also made fascinating prophecies. While some appear to have proven accurate, others remain up for interpretation. One of Cayce's most famous predictions was his warning of an impending stock market crash in the late 1920s. Cayce advised individuals to sell their stocks and invest in safer assets before the crash occurred. Unfortunately, most doubted him. Eventually, his warning came to pass, given the subsequent collapse of the stock market in October 1929. This event was what led to the infamous Great Depression. In 1935, Cayce predicted how World War II would unfold, including warnings of international conflicts and geopolitical tensions. He described an unprecedented alliance between the Germans, Austrians, and Japanese. It's worth noting that this alliance would not come to light until the Tripartite Pact's signing on September 27, 1940. Cayce also predicted that the whole world would be set on fire by the militaristic groups. While Cayce did not specifically predict the rise of Adolf Hitler, some argue that his general warnings about global unrest and conflict were reflective of the turbulent times preceding the war. Other strange foretellings from the sleeping prophet include the death of two presidents in 1939, stating how they will die and what will lead to their deaths. True to his words, in April 1945, President Franklin D. Roosevelt died in office, and in November 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. Cayce also discussed the lost city of Atlantis, predicting its rediscovery near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. In 1968, archaeologists discovered an underwater rock formation off the coast of the Bahamian island of North Bimini. The formation sits 18 feet below the surface. Some hypothesize it marks the submerged city's entrance. Although debate still rages about whether the Bimini Road is naturally occurring or human-made, its discovery lends additional credence to America's favorite clairvoyant. In many trance sessions, Cayce also reinterpreted the history of life on Earth. One of Cayce's controversial theories was polygenism. According to Cayce, 5 races, white, black, red, brown, and yellow, were created separately and simultaneously on different parts of Earth. He accepted the existence of aliens and Atlantis, saying that the red race developed in Atlantis, and its development was rapid, and believed that soul entities on Earth intermingled with animals to produce beings such as giants, which were as tall as 12 feet. Cayce's readings contained numerous predictions about discoveries in archaeology, science, and technology. Some of these predictions were remarkably accurate, such as his descriptions of the Sphinx and the Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx's paw.
Cayce's predictions eerily echoed his own independent investigation at this iconic Egyptian monument.
Seismographic studies around the base of the Sphinx. We placed geophones around the perimeter of the Sphinx,
which have sparked ongoing research and speculation among archaeologists and historians. Among thousands of his predictions, one of Cayce's biggest predictions was that future generations would live longer. This has come true with advancements in medical science and technology. Over the past decades, the average human lifespan has increased significantly. Global life expectancy has increased by more than 6 years between 2000 and 2019, from 66.8 years in 2000 to 73.4 years in 2019. In 1900, the average life expectancy of a newborn was 32 years. But by 2021, this had more than doubled to 71 years. However, this is just the half of what Edgar could do. Imagine having the ability to predict your death. Edgar Cayce did. His visions warned him that he should not use his psychic abilities more than twice a day, or serious health problems would occur. Cayce was rather well known and received thousands of requests. He ignored the warnings and went on with the readings. On January 1, 1945, Edgar Cayce predicted he would be buried in 4 more days. He died of a stroke on January 3, 1945, and is buried in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where he was born. Overall, Edgar Cayce's predictions are a subject of ongoing debate and interpretation. While some of his predictions have been deemed accurate or insightful in hindsight, others remain open to interpretation or have not been validated by subsequent events. This finally brings us to revealing the most striking of his predictions, which, to the ignorance of many, has begun to come to reality today. What did the sleeping prophet predict will happen at this present time? You will be kicking yourself for not knowing this sooner. What will happen in 2024? Interpreting Edgar Cayce's vision for the future requires a nuanced understanding of his readings, which encompassed a wide range of topics related to global events, spiritual evolution, and humanity's destiny. While Cayce's predictions were diverse and multifaceted, several overarching themes emerged that shed light on his vision for the future. Central to Cayce's vision for the future was the idea of a global spiritual awakening and transformation. Cayce believed that humanity was entering a new era of consciousness characterized by greater awareness, compassion, and spiritual understanding. He envisioned a time when individuals would awaken to their true spiritual nature and recognize their interconnectedness with all life, awakening the hidden potential to tap into their subconsciousness and supernatural abilities. Cayce emphasized the importance of healing and wholeness on all levels: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. He believed that true healing involved addressing the root causes of illness and imbalance and restoring harmony within the body, mind, and spirit. Cayce envisioned a future where holistic approaches to health and wellness would be embraced, leading to greater vitality, resilience, and well-being for individuals and society as a whole. Cayce foresaw a future marked by greater unity and cooperation among nations, cultures, and religions. He believed that humanity was destined to overcome divisions and conflicts through mutual understanding, respect, and cooperation. Cayce envisioned a time when individuals would recognize their common humanity and work together to create a more just, peaceful, and harmonious world. He expressed concern about the environmental challenges facing the planet and emphasized the importance of environmental stewardship and conservation. He believed that humanity had a responsibility to care for the Earth and its natural resources, recognizing the interconnectedness of all life. Cayce envisioned a future where individuals would live in harmony with nature, respecting the delicate balance of the ecosystem and working to preserve the planet for future generations. Cayce spoke of humanity's ongoing evolution of consciousness, a process of spiritual growth and self-realization that unfolds over time. He believed that individuals were capable of attaining higher levels of consciousness and enlightenment, transcending the limitations of ego and materialism. Cayce envisioned a future where humanity would collectively evolve toward greater wisdom, love, and unity with the divine. In interpreting Cayce's vision for the future, it's important to recognize that his insights were often symbolic. While some of his predictions may have specific implications for future events, others are more abstract and metaphysical, reflecting broader spiritual principles and themes. Ultimately, Cayce's vision for the future inspires us to embrace the potential for positive change and transformation, both individually and collectively, as we journey toward a brighter and more enlightened future. The Edgar Cayce information suggests that humanity's consciousness has evolved and expanded over time. Cayce stated that this expansion of consciousness could be viewed throughout the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. From Edgar's reading's perspective, the next great evolution would be tied to the development of what Cayce termed the fifth root race, an evolutionary occurrence that would mark a new age and a new understanding of humanity's relationship to God. Some people asked about treasure hunts or the outcomes of horse races. Arthur Lammers, a wealthy printer and student of metaphysics, convinced Cayce to give readings on philosophical subjects in 1923. Lammers told Cayce that during his trance state,
trance state is an experience where you are no longer connected to more of the external associative parts of yourself and your brain, and you're no longer tied into kind of the ego concept.
He spoke about Lammers' past lives and reincarnation, which Lammers believed in. Although reincarnation was popular at the time, it is not part of Christian doctrine.
Reincarnation means the rebirth of a soul or spirit in a different body. It can also mean a new form of something from the past.
Because of this, Cayce questioned his stenographer about what he said in his trance state and remained skeptical. He challenged Lammers' claim that he had validated astrology and reincarnation, saying he couldn't have said all that in one reading. Lammers explained that while he didn't remember all the details, the facts Cayce provided helped him check the validity of his studies in metaphysics. Lammers believed that the basic system running through all religions was confirmed by Cayce's readings. Lammers invited Cayce to Dayton, Ohio to explore metaphysical truths through the readings, and Cayce eventually agreed. Gertrude was skeptical, but interested. In Dayton, Cayce provided significant metaphysical insights, which he tried to reconcile with Christianity. According to Lammers, the 5th chapter of Matthew was seen as the constitution of Christianity.
A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house.
And the Sermon on the Mount was its declaration of independence. Cayce's subconscious seemed equally comfortable with metaphysical language as it was with medical terms. Lammers, aiming to support Cayce's healing methods, wanted to fund an organization for this purpose. Cayce agreed to take on the work and asked his family to join him in Dayton. What were the illnesses that he healed? What were his most notable predictions? The best part is yet to come. Stay tuned. After moving to Dayton, Cayce focused on health-related readings. The remedies he channeled often included electrotherapy, ultraviolet light, diet, massage, reducing mental work, and increasing relaxation. The American Medical Association took notice of his work, and Cayce felt it was time to make his operations more official with the help of licensed medical practitioners. In a trance in 1925, he reported that The Voice advised him to move to Virginia Beach, Virginia. Cayce's mature period, where he established lasting institutions, began in 1925. By then, he was a professional psychic with a small team of staff and volunteers. His readings increasingly included occult or esoteric themes.
Esotericism and occultism are two related terms, but they have different meanings. Esotericism refers to knowledge that is hidden or secret. Occultism refers to the study of hidden or secret knowledge, especially the study of the supernatural.
Although funds were limited, support came from interested benefactors. There were plans for an association and hospital, but the readings insisted on Virginia Beach, which was inconvenient for many involved. Gertrude began conducting the readings. Morton Blumenthal, who worked at the New York Stock Exchange, became interested in the readings and shared Cayce's vision. He bought a house for the Cayces in Virginia Beach. The Association of National Investigations, aimed at building a hospital and studying the readings scientifically, was incorporated in Virginia on May 6, 1927. Blumenthal was the president. His brother and several others were vice presidents. Cayce was secretary and treasurer, and Gladys was assistant secretary. To avoid legal issues, anyone requesting a reading had to join the association and agree to participate in psychic research. Moseley Brown, head of psychology at Washington and Lee University, joined the association in early 1928, convinced of the reading's value. On October 11, 1928, the hospital complex was dedicated. It included a lecture hall, library, vault for storing the readings, and offices for researchers. The complex also had a large living room, a 12-car garage, servants' quarters, and a tennis court. It had the largest lawn, in fact the only lawn, between the Cavalier and Cape Henry. The first patient was admitted the next day. The facility allowed for checking and rechecking remedies, which was Cayce's goal. He aimed to create a compendium for the medical profession. Shankar A. Bise, a chemist who used clairvoyant knowledge to make medicines, worked with Cayce to develop atomidine. The goal of Cayce's cures was to balance the digestive system by assimilating necessary properties from food. Treatments aimed to restore this equilibrium and included a variety of methods. Cayce gave over 14,000 documented readings during his life, covering a range of topics from personal issues to health conditions. Notable figures like Harry Houdini, Thomas Edison, Woodrow Wilson, and Marilyn Monroe were among his clients. He also predicted events such as the rediscovery of Atlantis and World War II. According to his biographer Thomas Sugrue, many people in the United States claimed his diagnoses and treatment suggestions were accurate. While these claims are largely anecdotal, Cayce's health advice from the 1920s and 30s remains relevant today. His tips for a healthy life included getting enough sleep, cooking with olive oil, exercising, and drinking plenty of water. Cayce also made notable prophecies, some of which seem to have been accurate. For instance, he predicted the stock market crash of 1929 twice, once in February 1925 and again 6 months before the crash in March 1929. In 1935, Cayce predicted World War II, describing an alliance between Germans, Austrians, and Japanese, which became known after the Tripartite Pact on September 27, 1940. He also warned that the whole world will be set on fire by the militaristic groups. His other predictions included using blood for diagnostics, discovering La Niña and El Niño effects, and communications companies merging cooperatively. Cayce spoke about the Dead Sea Scrolls and their creators, the Essenes, though these were discovered in 1947, after his death. He also predicted Atlantis would be rediscovered near Bimini around 1968 or 1969. In 1968, archaeologists found an underwater formation off North Bimini, 18 feet below the surface, which some think could be the city's entrance. The debate continues about whether the Bimini Road is natural or man-made, but it adds to Cayce's fascinating legacy. What do you think about Edgar Cayce readings? Do you think it is relevant to the life and teachings of Pope Francis? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to check out the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.